Well, hey, Cookster here, and welcome to another video. In this video, this is the hood for my 69 C10. So we're going to take it from the rusty underside, which it was just surface rust. Although I did find a few pinholes in the front brace up here. But the hood itself was in excellent shape, especially to be, what, 50 years old? Do the math in my head. However old this thing it is, it's in really good shape. It just had surface rust on the skin and kind of in the corners, you know, just normal surface rust. So I put the hood in my electrolysis tank, and believe it or not, the entire hood fit in my 4x8 electrolysis tank that I just posted a video on a while back. Hint, hint, go watch if you want to. So the entire hood went in there. So I put the hood in electrolysis, let all the rust get converted away by electrolysis process, if you want to call it converting, whatever you want to call it. Got rid of the rust. Then I brought it out and sandblasted it. Yes, I sandblasted sheet metal, but if you do it like I do it, so I go over it real easily with a siphon and sandblast gun. Just all I'm really doing is knocking off that coating that the electrolysis process had turned the rust into. You're not sandblasting the rust away. The rust is already gone. It's electrolysis has removed it. You're just removing that coating, and you can do that pretty quickly and not sit there and do this on the skin. Yes, if you sit there and take a sandblast gun and stand there and just do this around the skin, yeah, you can certainly screw up, especially if you're using a pressure pot. If you were trying to sandblast this thing from scratch, yes, it would be a very slow, tedious process to sandblast it, and dangerous, even with a siphon feed. But with electrolysis taking the rust off, it makes it so much faster, so much easier, and so much safer. This skin is not warped. It's not the sandblasting did not damage this skin in any way. It got it clean, and then I used Ospho, which is a phosphoric acid coating to neutralize the rust all up inside the braces. The front one, the rear one here, the rear one. I guess I can't see my hand. The rear one back in the back, and of course the front one. All this area I could not get to with a sandblaster or anything like that. I sprayed Ospho all up in here to try to convert and not preserve, but stop the rust as much as I could for the future. And then I did wind up having to put Ospho on the rest of the hood skin, which I probably would not have normally done. But once I put Ospho in here, and all the residue and the Ospho residue got in the rest of the hood, and you'll see it in the video, I pretty much had no choice. There are people, and I read it online some, that say do not use Ospho over a sandblasted surface, and I'm not arguing with them. They're probably right, but in my case, I pretty much had to do it. Did I screw up? I guess only time will tell. But anyway, that's how I did it. The underside of the hood, or the actual top side, is still got paint on it. I haven't stripped it yet. That'll be in a video coming down the road sometime. So anyway, that's enough yapping. Let's get into the video. Let's go. Alright, I have my entire C10 hood in my electrolysis tank. I had no idea when I went to put this hood in the tank that it would actually fit the entire hood. I was going to do it in two sections, you know, back in the front or left and a right or something. So it's been soaking for about 40 hours, something like that. I wanted to get all the surface rust off the bottom of the hood, make it much easier to sandblast it. Which I've got some other electrolysis videos. You can watch those and learn a lot more about it. It certainly makes rust removal. Well, the rust is removed now. All we're doing is sandblasting off the coating that's left when the rust converts. But it makes the sandblasting so much easier than trying to sandblast just off, you know, just rust as rust. This thing has got water. Just basically like picking up a lid that's full of water. So this thing's heavy. That's the start. You gotta get all that water to break surface tension. There we start. There we go. Now it's starting. Here it comes. All right. Woo. Oh yeah, that'll work. There we go. I'm gonna go ahead and blow all this paint off. Alright, you watch me blow all this paint off. Pretty much all the factory paint under the hood is gone. The dark spots you see here, this is not paint, that's rust. This hood had surface rust in this area here, which was above the air cleaner, you know, where the engine heat got hot and cooked the paint for over 40 years. The sides had surface rust, you know, both sides. And I'm sure there was rust behind this brace. That brace is clean as new money. You can see it almost shining, it's so clean. The area that didn't come off as much as I thought it might is up here. This is the urethane paint that I put on it back in the mid 80s when I jammed it, when I color changed it. This red urethane is over, well, mid 80s, do the math, 40, it's almost 40 years old. And that stuff's hanging on pretty good. So this is probably going to be a little bit of trouble to sandblast. So another thing, my electrodes on my hood were running across this way. As I had said, I intended to soak this thing in two halves and with a different electrode array, but since I got the whole tank in there, I ran my electrodes this way. And if you don't already know it, or if you haven't watched my other videos, electrolysis works best by line of sight. So I really should have had a couple of rebar rods right on top of this area here, and it may have turned loose better than it actually did. Alright, real quick, I rinsed it off with water. You can see that's all bare metal. This is also bare metal, but it's rust, where the rust converted to that black iron oxide compound, or whatever it's called I was talking about. Same thing on the side. That's not rust, that's that compound the rust converts into. Same thing over here. And this lower brace, see how that thing looks as shiny as it did the day it come off the press at GM 50 years ago. 50? 45, whatever. Long time ago. That's amazing. And as I was saying, this is that 40-year-old urethane that I put on there, and that stuff's still hanging on. So that could be fun to sandblast. It's fun in a not fun way. As I mentioned, the backside is still the backside. I'm gonna strip it mechanically. So I'm not electrolysis seeing the backside. Alright, here's my C10 hood after I've taken it out of my electrolysis tank. I'm going to sandblast it. I am using a siphon feed. Blaster. This is an ALC that I got probably 10 years ago. It works pretty good. It's better than some of that cheap junk you buy nowadays. That's a Craftsman container. You can't see it. I've had that thing for 40 years. The first sandblaster I ever bought, me and my dad bought it back in the 80s. It was a Craftsman sandblaster. Made similar to this, but the head, the gun wasn't near as good. This ALC gun's pretty good. It works. And I am sandblasting sheet metal, and before you lose your minds and the keyboard warriors start typing and saying you can't do sheet metal with sandblasting, you're right. A pressure pot and a lot of pressure will screw up sheet metal. But I have sandblasted lots of sheet metal with this gun, and I'm telling you, I never had trouble. Knock on hard it. I've never had trouble with it warping sheet metal. I don't sit in one spot and just hold it trying to get rust off. Plus, I've already put this hood through the electrolysis tank. The rust is gone. All I'm doing now is sandblasting off the black iron oxide or whatever that compound, it's not iron oxide, it's something else. Whatever that compound the rust turns into after electrolysis, all I'm doing is knocking it off. It's a very quick, very easy sandblast operation now to sandblast this hood. So I'm just going to show a little bit of that. I'll fast forward it, no narrating or anything, and we'll go from there. And you can see how easy it's going. I know you can't see up close, but you can see I'm not having to spend any time sitting there knocking rust off. Alright, I've done, you watched me do the back rail here and part of these rails, and I went down the sides on each side. I have not done the center yet, or that front section. That's your thing with a hardener. That's tough stuff, so it may be kind of hard to get off. But it's on a 16 or 14 gauge piece of metal, so I'm not worried about it warping or anything like that. The skin, I'm just going to go right over it. You watched me do the edges right here. I just went right over them. This won't warp at all. This is the cold slag I use. I bought like 30 bags from Northern Tool back in the summer. Got it a deal. I got it for half price. It might even been less than that. It was on sale. I recycle my abrasive 3 or 4 cycles. You know, it makes it go farther. It does, you know, turn into powder. But that's what expects to happen. It's the same thing that happens in a blast cabinet. That, you know, abrasive just goes in there and recycles, and finally you have to, you know, clean it out and put it in fresh. Same thing. So I was waiting to get fresh abrasive to do the skin, because it should cut a little faster, and I can just get on there and just knock it right off. Okay, I wanted to show you right quick. This area here is surface rust, and surface rust that was here. This area here was all the way back to about here. I was going to show you how easy it was to knock this off with the sandblaster, and I forgot to press the stupid button again. Alright, just half the hood done. I think I missed to press the button on nearly all this center section in here. And I wanted to show sandblasting this damn surface rust. What an idiot I am. Alright, I don't know how much of it I showed. I did a horrible job yesterday of pressing the record button. I think I missed recording 3 times. Basically, that entire panel section I wanted to show you blasting. I thought I was hitting the button and I wasn't. So I'm going to try and do a much better job today. So I'm going to record blasting this side, and I'll show some of it in real time. I'm going to fast forward through a lot of it. I'm going to show some of it in real time. I want you to see that I am not sitting there taking that blast nozzle and just going, you know, slowly and having to knock rust. The rust is gone. I'm just knocking that black coating off. Hell, the 40, 50-year-old original primer is sticking better. It's sticking now. The rust is gone. That black coating just blows right off of that sandblaster. Also, I know I'm not showing any close-ups of me sandblasting, but I can't sandblast and run the camera at the same time. I just can't do it. I'm by myself, so I'm a one-man show. So my apologies, but that's just the way it is. You'll see how easy this is to knock off. This is not sit there and do this trying to knock off rust. That's where you warp sheet metal. Even with one of these, you'd warp sheet metal. You can watch me. I'm keeping this thing going. I'm moving quick. I'm not staying in one place any length of time. It's not warping. Alright, let me show you right quick. I have the entire panel blasted, and of course the back side of that. So all I had left to do now is the front bar, under the hood, and whatever else I decide to do. Little nooks and crannies, maybe something on the top side, but not much, because I'm going to strip the top side mechanically with a stripping disc. So all I have left to do, like I said, is this brace here, and this is 14, or hell, I think that's 14. This red urethane may or may not give me a hard time, but so I'll be slowing down working on that. But don't think I'm in here doing any skin, because I'm not. The skin is done, and it's in good shape. I'm not going to put my bare hands on it, but I'm telling you it's in good shape. So I'm going to finish up the front side, and the sandblasting of the underside of the hood. Well, the sandblasting of the hood itself will be done. Now I might have to hit a spot or two. Like I said, I don't think I will, but we'll see. Anyhow, let's finish this thing up. Alright, it's done. I'm gonna get it cleaned up, stand it up, blow out most of the dust, and we'll take a look at it, see if I missed anything. There's still a lot of dust in there. Not a huge amount, but it's all up in the cracks and crevices, so it's going to take a heavy undertaking to get all that out of there. But came out really nice. Now I did find some rust pinholes I didn't know about in this front area. Like here's some, here's one, here's some. Might be one right there. Nothing horrible. Maybe some right there. A little bit right there. You may not be able to see it, but it's a handful, a dozen or so pinhole spots, but nothing horrible. So next, from the hood, I will weld up these pinholes off camera. No need you to watch that. It's not that much work, and you've seen me weld and grind before. So the next step for the hood, after I get the pinholes and stuff all welded up, I'm going to put metal prep on it, and I'll use Ospho. I don't talk a lot about Ospho on my channel, although I do mention it because Ospho's got a bad rep, and if you use it wrong, it can get you in trouble. But I'm going to use it on this hood, specifically up inside all the areas I can't get to. So I'm going to spray up in the behind the brace up there, and all down and under here on this front of the hood. I'm going to spray it really good with Ospho. So I'll touch on that a little bit when I do it. Okay, quick break here. It's been a couple of months since I filmed the video for my hood that you're actually watching now. I have all the footage filmed of putting the Ospho on, taking it off, cleaning it up, sanding it, rinsing. I have all that filmed, but it made this video way too long. I'm going to skip the entire Ospho section and go right to priming with the epoxy primer. I wanted to put that in this video. I feel like it's pretty important that you guys wanted to see it go from, you know, the rusty crusty beginning all the way up into primer at the end. Thought it was important to include that. So as I said, I'll put the Ospho, the rust preventative portion of the video in a separate video. So anyway, let's move on to the priming. So keep moving forward. Here we go. So all the hood prep work is done, and we're now ready to spray some epoxy primer. So we've gone from the rusty crusty hood, put it in my electrolysis tank, let it soak all the rust away and turn most of the paint away. Then we sandblasted it, put the Ospho metal prep on there. Then I DA'd it down, sanded it, scuffed it with a Scotch-Brite, blew all the dust out, and it's ready for primer. As far as you concerned, we'll be spraying primer right about now. So the primer I'm using, this is PPG product. There's a PPG, you know, brand. I think the label's like an orange color. There's a Shopline, and then there's Omni. And I frankly don't know if there's any difference between the three. I know the Shopline does cost a little more, but the Omni is the same stuff. I've been told by my jobber, and I trust the guy, it's the same stuff. That's the epoxy primer I'm using. I'm going to get it mixed up, and we're going to shoot some primer. All right, I'm going to spray the primer on my hood. There won't be any narrating this time while I'm priming, obviously, because I have a mask on. So hopefully anything I think of to tell you while I'm spraying, I'll remember when I'm done. I probably won't, but I'll try. There are a few key highlights right quick. I have washed the hood really good with, well, not washed, I've rinsed it with wax and grease remover. Wash, rinse, clean, whatever word you want to use, while it was still flat. So don't forget your wax and grease remover step. That's very important, you know, for knocking down, making sure you don't have, you know, oil from your fingerprints, fish eyes, whatever. Just always use wax and grease remover. Just a smart thing to do. So I washed it down with wax and grease remover. I sanded it again. I didn't sand it. I scuffed it with a Scotch-Brite one last time. I'll probably vacuum this thing with a shop vac at least a dozen times, if not more. Air hose blowing around in all the cracks and crevices, and then stuff will come out, and I vac it with the shop vac. And it finally got to the point was I've done it so many times I got sick of it. There's still going to be a few pieces of little grit and trash, residue and stuff back up in these places, and it's to the point now where I can't chase it all. I could stand here all day and keep chasing trash. Luckily, this is just the epoxy primer stage. I'm hoping whatever residue is up in here maybe get locked down a little bit with the overspray from the primer. I am going to start out with my little detail gun. It's my old school sharp siphon speed. My old school sharp siphon feed. You can get down in the little smaller places really good with this thing. With a modern gun with the cup on top, those still annoy me. I have not fully mentally transitioned yet. I'm still used to the JGA with the cup on the bottom, and we won't go there right now. So I'm going to use this to spray in all the cracks, like the joint, right, all down through here and back here. Try to get as much primer up under here and here as I can. So I'm going to use this gun for that. Once I get all, and that's why I have it standing vertical, so I can get to it with the gun in a good position. Not trying to do it sideways. That would never work. So that's why I'm going to prime the edges like this, all the cracks and stuff. When I finish that, then I'm going to lay it down and we'll prime the entire, the body of the hood with my new mail's in. We'll prime the body of the hood. We'll prime the body of the hood with the new school, gun top on top. What? You know what I mean. So anyway, let's get to priming. So now I'll get the paint or the primer gun switched over and we'll prime the body of the hood. Alright, that was one coat. Almost. I ran out just on the edge over there. Alright, I'm going to shoot the edge over there where I ran out of primer, just on the very edge, and then put the second coat on, and we'll be done. And I'll show it to you. So here's my hood in epoxy primer. It looks good. I mean, looks on everything with epoxy. But I don't see any bare spots. As I was showing you before, I think you can see this hood is not warped. People that tell you can't sandblast it, well, if you do it the way I do it, you can. I'm not trying to say that I'm some kind of miracle worker. It's just I use the electrolysis to do all the rust removal work, and I only use the sandblaster to knock off that coating, which is very easy to do and very quick and not destructive to the skin at all. You can see the dent. That's a dent. Was already in there. There's one right there, if you can see it. Was already in there. And there's probably going to be ripples in the panel from the factory that I got to block out, but as far as the sandblasting ruining that skin, no. So anyway, I'm happy with it. It's the bottom's in epoxy primer. Still haven't stripped the top side yet, and I don't know when I'll be doing that. So that's the end of the video. I don't know how long this video wound up being when I edited it. I'm going to try to, make it as short as I can. The hood, the inside of the hood now would be ready for a top coat, but also I've got body work to do on the other side, which will affect the skin because I have to do hammer and dolly work. So I certainly would not think about top coating the underside till I finish the top side, body work wise. That's going to be, who knows when I'm going to get to that. Anyway, that's enough babbling, I think. So I hope you got something out of the video. I hope you learned something, or at least, go think about your own situation and do whatever you think to do. So be sure to do all the YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe, share it around. If you feel so inclined, I would appreciate it. Help me grow the channel. And I'll catch you on the flip side. Y'all come back now, you hear? Happy primer something or other. Bye.